Hey everybody, it's the Uniformed Historian again. Thanks for joining me this evening. The other day, we posted on all of our social media accounts, if you could ask the Uniformed Historian one question, what would it be? And it didn't necessarily have to be Civil War related. I decided to go live the other day and I answered these questions, but only like 3 people tuned in, and each one was for like a minute or two apiece, and none of them were people that actually asked the questions. So I decided rather than trying to go live again, I'm just going to do this as a recorded video so that you can watch it at your convenience and see if your question got answered. So without further ado, let's get started. Question number 1. I think I know who asked this. Is mayonnaise an instrument? No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Horseradish is not an instrument either. Question 2. What's your favorite experience at a battlefield? Well, that's kind of a loaded question right there. My favorite experience at a battlefield, I've had so many different experiences, I'm not entirely sure what this means. Um, I would say maybe my favorite experience that I've had as a Civil War reenactor at a historic site took place back in the early 2000s at Port Republic. We were portraying Louisiana troops at the Coaling, which was part of the fighting at Port Republic, Virginia. And I remember when we got up on top of the hill, we started fighting with the federal troops that were up there at closer range. We could actually see what we were shooting at. And there was a guy who was a really good sport. He saw a 14, 15-year-old kid with a musket aiming right at him, and he took the hit when I fired my weapon, and I thought how cool it was, because that was kind of like, I guess for lack of a better way of putting it, my first confirmed kill or whatever. And it was just so cool seeing someone acknowledge, it wasn't just bang bang, oh you missed me, ha ha. He was a good sport and he took the hit, and I thought that was really cool. So anytime I go to an event, I try to return the favor and pay it forward. I try to take a hit anytime I see someone pointing their weapon at me, because I remember how that made me feel, especially if it's a younger, newer reenactor that I know is going to get a thrill out of it, and then I really play it up and make it look good. Moving on to the next question. What's a site that you think every American Civil War buff should go to? That's really not a fair question, because it depends on what your interest is. If you're only specifically interested in a certain regiment or a certain person, I can't sit here and honestly say you should go see Gettysburg, because maybe they weren't even at Gettysburg. You know what I mean? That's kind of hard to say. I would recommend everybody should visit Gettysburg at least one time in their life, because that's one of my favorite places to go, but I think that might be a question further down the list. Somebody asked, spicy or yellow mustard on bratwurst? Spicy all the way. My favorite battlefield to visit, my favorite big battlefield would have to be Gettysburg. Because there's just something there for everybody. I like to say that it's the Disney World of Civil War battlefields, because there's just something for everybody. But instead of the hats with the Mickey and Minnie Mouse ears, you get blue and gray cloth kepis. So Gettysburg just has something for everybody, and it's just such an incredible place. So hands down, that's my favorite big battlefield to go to. My favorite smaller battlefield, I would have to say probably a two-way tie between Droop Mountain Battlefield and Carnifex Ferry Battlefield for different reasons, but we can do a compare and contrast video later on. There's a lot of other questions here that I don't want to get too caught up answering each one too in depth. So if you want to know more about those, just shoot me a message. I'll be happy to talk about it with you. Where am I on my list here? My favorite battlefield to visit, and okay, that was a two-part question. Your favorite place on the field. Okay, so at Gettysburg, my favorite place on the field would have to be the Mahone Brigade marker on Confederate Avenue because I know that that's not a brigade that really did a whole lot during the Gettysburg campaign, but my ancestor that I know the most about was with Mahone's brigade, and he was definitely there. So that's always been kind of a special place to me on the battlefield. What's the weirdest reaction you've gotten being seen in uniform? All right, so hands down, the weirdest, strangest interaction I've ever had in my life. I forget how many years ago this was, but I was in uniform and I had stopped for gasoline. And there happened to be a McDonald's inside of this gas station. So I filled up my car and I pulled into a parking spot, locked it up, and I walk inside to this McDonald's. I get in line, and there's only, I say in line, there were like 2 people ahead of me. It wasn't a busy day. And I noticed that the kitchen staff gets really quiet. And I just happened to look up, from my phone, and you can see through their little window, and they're all, they're all just kind of staring at me. And all at once, one of them goes, "Ask him why he's dressed like that." And I'm like, well, I'm not deaf. You could just ask me. But you could hear a pin drop in that place. It was like they'd never heard of the Civil War. They had no idea what I was talking about when I even tried to explain it. It was just so weird. And that's got to be the weirdest experience that I've ever had at anywhere as far as a reaction to me in uniform goes. These people were absolutely clueless what I was doing, what I was dressed like, what the Civil War was. It was weird. So, my favorite restaurant to eat at while I'm on the road. I would have to say, okay, because I travel a lot of places. There's a lot of restaurants that I like to stop and eat at because I like to hit the local joints. Of all the places that I've eaten in my travels, though, I've got to say, anytime I go to Cincinnati, Ohio, Gold Star Chili, that's got to be, that's non-negotiable. I have to hit a Gold Star Chili or a Skyline Chili at least once when I'm in the Cincinnati region. It's amazing food. The service is always great, and it's just incredible. If you've never had Cincinnati style chili before, try it at least once in your life. You won't regret it. So that's probably got to be my favorite place to stop at of all the places I've been to on the road. Food-wise, that is. Let's see. Does the uniformed historian have a celebrity crush? Not really. I mean, let's face it. Celebrities are Hollywood, musicians, artists, and people that are really rich, have a lot of money. If you gave me $1 million, I could look like Leonardo DiCaprio. Well, okay, anyway, maybe that wasn't the best analogy, but if you gave me $1 million, I could look amazing too. So I prefer people that are real as opposed to people that are fake. But I will say this, though. I don't think anybody has ever heard this from me before, actually. If I did have to pick a celebrity crush, I will say that I've always thought that Amy Lee of Evanescence was absolutely beautiful. And I don't think I've ever told anybody that before. So there you have it. The uniformed historian thinks Amy Lee of Evanescence is absolutely beautiful. So I hope that satisfies that question. Let's see. Your favorite Civil War song. Okay, so my favorite Civil War song would have to be Bonnie Blue Flag. And it's not because it's a Confederate song. It's not because it lists all the states. It's nothing like that. It's actually because of the opening line, "We are a band of brothers and native to the soil." And anytime I hear those lines, I don't really even think about history so much. I think about all my friends. I think about my brothers, Doug and Eric. I think about everybody that travels with me when I make these videos, because they've all become my extended family, and I love each and every one of them so much. And that Civil War song just resonates with me when I hear "We Are a Band of Brothers." So that's got to be my favorite Civil War song. My second favorite Civil War song, for other reasons, would have to be Shenandoah. My great-grandmother was a very, very special lady to me. As a matter of fact, I keep her picture right here on my table in my living room. she was a very special lady to me, and that was her favorite song. So that one always makes me think of her as well. So Shenandoah will always have a special place in my heart as well as far as Civil War music goes. Um, I think that I think I may have actually hit all of them on that note. Yeah, I think I've officially answered all the questions that were written down for me. So I thank you guys for tuning in. And if anybody has any other questions, maybe we'll do this again sometime. So take care. God bless. I will see you guys at the next Uniformed Historian site, which, as of this recording, is going to be Carlisle, Pennsylvania this weekend. So stay tuned for that.